Hello, everyone, and welcome to another installment of TEDXcellence, the show in which I honestly attempt to learn things. And maybe today will be the day. And I come to you live from my Corona bunker on the moon with Dog Cat Fox, a Pepperjack, and all of you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Thursday. Thirsty Thursday, I guess. This is going to be an interesting one, guys. But we'll get to that in a moment after I say hello to Zach Osborne. Hello. Devil Fruit Zero. Hello. Brutus. Hello. Jaeger Pony. Hello. John Miller. Hello. Jesse Teller. Hello. His Kitten. Hello. Black Belt for Christ. Hello. Keever Dam. Hello. The Luke Skywalker 2. Hello. Zach Lives Matter. Hello. Point Creation, thank you so much. Here's hoping elections actually keep taking place. Well, with the year as it's been, who knows? That one Cern of Satania, hello. Drew W, hello. Pinkalo, the Driving Ape Man, hello. Dark Alile, hello. The Pissed Off Shih Tzu, hello. All right, so today's going to be a little different, I think, because there are no buzzwords in the title. The official title of the presentation doesn't have any of the usual suspects, let's say, on buzzwords that might have caught my attention. It's more of the concept than anything else. And the title is How to Win Election Campaigns in a Changing World. How to Win Election Campaigns in a Changing World. And given the fact that we are soon to have our own election here in the United States, and this is a relatively recent TEDx talk, I am curious to know, what does that entail? You know, what are the... what's the machinery going on in the background that maybe I'm not aware of? So this might actually be an educational TEDx talk, rather than one where I'm kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop on some concept that already has me a little bit, So maybe the bingo card will be relatively blank this time, guys. We shall see. Emperor W.R. Costin, hello, the gayest person on YouTube. Thank you so much. One, please. You got it. Red Chaostry, hello. Mike Savage, Blard. Mr. Joestar, hello. The Roar of Ashmedai, hello. Fernanda, hello. Sar Jim, hello. Check Your Logic, hello. Crimson Tiger, hello. Okay, so the link in the description to the bingo card should be the correct one this time. As last time I made a mistake and had the old link there. So, but like I say, this could be a relatively boring one, guys, insofar as like me being outraged or something. I honestly am curious to know if there's some perspective on elections that is worth knowing. Now, as you can see from the title card there, this apparently took place in Zurich. And if I could tell from the little bit of audio I listened to make sure that it wasn't totally lousy, this is an international dialogue, so to speak. I don't know that he's going to be talking specifically about American elections, but elections in general. So we'll see what we see. But otherwise, yeah. Seniko, hello. And I think that's everyone. If I missed any hellos, I'll try to remember to get to some later. Also, I want to also remind, if you do share the stream out, especially and, well, particularly on Twitter, please try to remember to tag me in the tweet where you're tweeting it out to your followers and everything, so that I know that you've done so and I can thank you personally, because I really do appreciate that. Just remember, if you put my tag in the tweet, either don't make it the very first thing in the tweet or put at least a period in front of it, because if it's just me tagged at the beginning of the tweet, only I see it, as far as I understand the mechanics of Twitter. And don't quote me on that, because I'm not a boomer, but, you know, I'm not any spring chicken either. All right, so thank you, Lady Gopher, for the Dog Cat Fox and all the hearts. Oh, yay, Dog Cat Fox. Oh, Dog Cat Fox. All right, guys, I'm going to start off with a couple of seconds of sound. You guys tell me if you can hear it. This is a relatively short TEDx talk, and just clocking in under 10 minutes. So, yeah, maybe this will actually be educational, or at least thought-provoking, if nothing else. So let us begin.
People think that all it takes to win an election is a catchy slogan, good packaging, and $1 million.
Okay, catchy slogan, good packaging, and $1 million. Well, $1 million is awfully cheap for elections these days, at least in America. I don't know about other places or what systems they have. But sounds good, says Kiever Dam. Thumbs up, says Drew W. All right, so some people think it all takes a catchy slogan and packaging and $1 million. Well, I don't know who those people are, but I'm not one of them, because to win an election, I mean, sure, money obviously is unfortunately a grand consideration these days, but also message, experience, and so on about the actual candidate. Now, again, maybe that's just me, but the most cynical amongst us might think that that's all you need. Just a good slogan and a bunch of money. Let's find out.
Think again.
I am, totally.
Ever since I was a child, I was passionate about election campaigns.
So you're a nerd. I can empathize.
Fascinated with the process of influencing people to vote a certain way.
Yes, influencing people to vote a certain way. Influencing. Not convincing, through argumentation or maybe a good campaign, but influencing. We heard all about this from the Russians in 2016, didn't we?
But when I studied political science in Geneva some 20 years ago, I was a bit disappointed.
Okay.
Because campaigns were barely an issue. If anything, political scientists have actually tried to prove that campaigns have limited to no impact.
Well, I guess. I mean, if you're a dyed-in-the-wool conservative or liberal or something, more likely than not, especially in America. Now, again, I don't know if he's talking in general. I assume so, because he's going to Geneva. But at least in American politics, as I've observed, party loyalty and or ideological loyalty, for lack of a better word, trumps considerations of campaigning or campaign stops or speeches or anything else. We're so polarized in this country that, there are people who sit in the middle, certainly, but you've got people who lean one direction or the other direction, or staunchly in one direction and the other direction, and will never move. So do the campaigns really matter? I mean, you could make some people on one side or the other more apathetic, depending on the quality of the candidate, but oftentimes, yeah, does it really matter what Biden says at this point, to take the current year's election into consideration? If you are a never Trumper, the bar for making an argument to get your vote is really, really, really low. So, yeah.
The argument goes like this. If a model can predict the outcome of the election 6 months before election day, before the actual campaign takes place, then the campaign can hardly have much of an impact.
Well, except, at least, again, going back to our most recent presidential election in 2016, all of the models, all of the predictions were absolutely wrong. Well, not all of them, but the vast majority that people gave credence to all predicted wrong. Even the night of the election, the predictions going in were skewed so dramatically in the wrong direction for what the outcome would end up being that, at least in our case, maybe the campaigns do matter. Because certainly Hillary Clinton, if she had run a good campaign, might have won. But she didn't. There's a great book that you can find to read, or audiobook, called Shattered, Inside the Disastrous Hillary Clinton Campaign, or something, the subtitle, something like that. And you really see just how sort of a divine right of kings, it's my turn, sort of a presumption of greatness that ran through that campaign's thinking really doomed it. So campaigns can matter, regardless of what the models might say.
Well, it actually has become more difficult to predict election results because the world is changing.
The world is changing.
And it's changing at an increasingly fast pace.
An increasingly fast pace.
Nowadays, politics in many countries is very polarized, and the electorate is getting ever more volatile.
Has politics ever not been polarized? And I guess he'll have to quantify what he means by more volatile, because, again, just speaking as an American, our politics have always been polarized and have always been volatile, depending on, again, how you define that word.
So, what is the key to win an election in this new environment?
Social media. I'm predicting that somewhere in here he's going to talk about social media. It's not a bingo card square or anything. I'm just guessing.
I am here today to answer this question. In my experience, based on 2,000 successful and a few painful, unsuccessful campaigns, it takes what I call the 4 M's to win high-profile campaigns.
Oh, 4 M's. That's going to be a list. Okay. I'm circling free space and a list. All right. We're off to the races on this one. Brutus says, Scribble, you sounded like this overdramatic action movie narrators. Well, that's the thing. You hear that phrase in a lot of movie trailers, either by characters or the narrators, like, the world is changing. You know, something like that. You hear that a lot. So when he said that, I was just like, yeah, that sounds like a movie trailer.
The first M you need is the message.
Yes, message. Do you have a message? Do you have something that makes you stand out from others? You know, like something beyond, I'm with her. Right? I mean, these are the most recent great examples of bad and good messaging. I'm with her versus make America great again. One focuses on the candidate and your allegiance to that candidate. The other one conjures images of making the country good or prosperity, etc. One has a very, very limiting vision to it, and the other has a much more expansive vision to it. And yeah, so message is important. It really is.
Now, when I talk about message to politicians, they often think of a tagline or an issue. A good message is more than a slogan.
It is fundamentally, but the slogan is what draws you in first and foremost. The slogan gives you a notion of what this person is focused on. And so it's not the deciding factor per se, but a good slogan will always at least draw you in. A bad slogan will always make people hesitate just a little bit. Because your competency in running a campaign, at least in my mind, is also reflective of your competency in running a government, if that is what you want me to vote for you on.
A good message ideally should express something about you and about your opponent.
Okay. And okay, if we're going beyond slogans, it's like, well, sure, you have to distinguish yourself as the better choice. Yes, okay.
Nowadays, established traditional parties just evaporate. New ones come out of nowhere. We've long been experiencing this in developing countries.
Was there a cut there? I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to back up a little bit. It seemed like something was cut just then. Maybe it was just the way the camera worked. I'm going to check the best way to look at this is check his body position before the next edit out and see if he was in the same spot or did they cut something out? Because that seemed a little awkward to me.
About your opponent.
Right.
Nowadays, established tradition.
Yeah, they cut something. You see that his hands were together. Hold on. Okay, so watch this. Watch his hands as we go, okay? Watch where his hands are, and then after they cut away from the wide shot where his hands are.
Nowadays, established traditional parties just evaporate. New ones come out of nowhere. We've long been experiencing this in developing countries.
Okay, I'm kind of ticked off now. I want to hear what he has to say about something. I don't want an edited version of it. So I have no idea what nowadays was preceding, because we jumped into evaporating parties. Okay.
Now we see the same thing happening in the Western world. No party can count on loyal, regular voters.
Yes, they can. Yes, they can. In America, at least, there are some states that, barring a massive sea change, can be relied upon to vote a particular way overall in the electoral process. I mean, you're not going to find California voting Republican anytime in the near future, right? You're not going to find Missouri voting Democrat anytime in the near future, and so on. Now, is it a guarantee, like it'll never change? No. But all things being equal, there are some states, at least in our process, that, like they keep saying, oh, Texas could turn blue in the next election. Or Texas is a purple state because it's right on the line of going one way or the other. Maybe, but there are some bastions to ideological purity, let's say, or party loyalty that won't be changing anytime in the near future. And there are some segments of the population that will always vote one way or the other and can be relied upon for the most part. Now, should you take those states and demographics for granted? No. No. You need to campaign even in places and with people that you would assume are going to vote for you anyway, because people can be felt left out, forgotten, and they can feel as though they're being taken for granted. And that's an easy way to lose support real quick. So that's something that Hillary Clinton didn't seem to understand in her own campaign.
Therefore, a party has to constantly innovate, reinvent itself. With every election anew, you have to give voters a reason why vote for you.
Yes, it's true. It's true. There's always going to be a certain segment of the population that is probably dyed in the wool going to vote for you anyway, but that's not the group you have to worry about. It's the people in the middle and the possibility that you could change the minds of somebody on the opposite side of the equation. Yes. Okay.
Ideally, not by talking about yourself, but by telling voters what's in it for them.
Yes, we are all driven by self-interest in one way, shape, or form. Sure. A person's story, though, and the legitimacy of their story about themselves does matter. If you can't trust the person, at least to the extent that they're going to do what they say they're going to do, it's difficult to put your vote behind them. So it's a combination. But yeah, what are you offering? What are you promising to do? What can you do for me? What have you done for me lately, etc.?
I'm sure many of you still remember Barack Obama's slogan, "Change we can believe in."
Yes, I remember that very clearly.
It's probably one of the best campaign slogans in the history of US presidential elections.
Well, truth be told, I couldn't tell you what the campaign slogans are for any other presidents because I wasn't exposed to them to the degree that I was during the Obama campaign. But I'm sure, for the sake of argument, it's at least one of the most memorable ones of recent times, next to "Make America Great Again," which has been drilled into our brains for better or worse over and over and over again.
The fact that many of us still remember it more than 10 years later proves the point.
Truth be told, if he hadn't just recited it now and somebody said, hey, what was Obama's campaign slogan? My first image of Obama's campaign wasn't even, I think, did he even commission that poster? It was that poster where it just said hope on it in red, white, and blue colors and a picture of Obama. I think an artist did that independently and the campaign adopted it, I think, or something like that. Anyway, that'd be the first thing to come to my mind. So if I tried really hard, I could probably think of it, but not off the cuff. Either way, he's not wrong. It's one of the more memorable ones, or at least effective ones for the time.
But don't underestimate it. A good slogan is more than a play of words.
Didn't you just say the message is more than just the slogan? Or, of course, I don't know what they cut out of this guy's speech, so it could have been something else.
A good slogan should summarize your message with forcefulness and passion.
I wonder if he's going to bring up Hillary Clinton's slogan. I really do, because that would be an interesting contrast from Obama's slogan. You know, the slogan that carried him to some extent or another into the White House 2 times around, and Hillary's, which absolutely failed to do anything but promote her versus any kind of message. Thank you, Drew W. Thought Obama was hope and change. I thought it was something as simple as that, too. But change we can believe in is something, I mean, I obviously heard that. Was that the official slogan? I honestly don't recall. Thank you, this is Kyle. Hello, chat people and scribbles. How's it hanging? Low and lazy, to quote Homer Simpson. But anyway.
And change we can believe in did exactly that.
Okay.
If you have a message, now you need what I call a screenplay to communicate that message to your audience. You need media.
Okay, so this is number 2, message and media. Right. Okay, social media's got to come up in here somewhere.
You and I, we just met, but I actually know a lot about you.
That sounds creepy.
Are you aware of the fact that political consultants spend days trying to figure out what image to use to make you vote a certain way?
Yes. That's all campaign people do, is try to figure out ways to make people vote a certain way. So, yes.
What you see in advertising doesn't just happen by coincidence.
You don't say. Now, I'm talking condescendingly here, but I'm assuming he's sort of playing towards the lowest common denominator of people who understand politics. Now, I'm not claiming to be an expert in any way, shape, or form, but I think I know a little bit more than the average bear about political chicanery. So I'm not gonna diss him too much, but all the same, I am the audience for this particular presentation.
I am one of the not so many who has both an academic background in political science, but does campaigns for a living.
Okay.
I've used market research to figure out how to change the looks and behavior of the top candidate. Focus groups have revealed what campaign tools to use, what ads to air, and how to tweak them to make them even more effective.
Wow. Now, just as an aside, there's many great documentaries out there about political campaigns, but the 2 I would recommend to anybody, one is called A Perfect Candidate, and it's from the, I want to say the early 90s. And it follows the Oliver North campaign for I believe a Senate seat. And it's a ridiculously accessed documentary on the inside of the Oliver North campaign. And some of the events, the commentary, and especially the insights from one of North's major campaign managers, I forget what his name is, it was Mark something. But anyway, it's one of the most insightful, I think, and informative documentaries on how the nitty-gritty of political campaigns work. And even though it takes place long before the prevalence of the internet or social media, the mechanisms don't change all that much. So I'd recommend that highly. I actually really like that movie. It's really interesting to watch. The other one is called Boogeyman, and it's about Lee Atwater. And if you don't know who Lee Atwater is, he was a political operative for the Republican Party back in the 80s and early 90s. He was sort of the mentor to Karl Rove, who would go on to be the quote-unquote architect of George H.W. Bush's campaign. the documentary called Boogeyman, watching him and how he manipulated things and how he did his work is also very disturbing on one hand, as to the kind of tricks and things being pulled behind the scenes to get things done politically, but also very informative as to how real politics in America work, for better or worse. So A Perfect Candidate and Boogeyman, if you can find those, I highly recommend them. Point Curation, thank you so much. Dewey defeats Truman. Yeah, you know how models predict the outcome? Yeah, Dewey defeats Truman, Clinton beats Trump, etc. Yeah.
With social and online media, this second M is, of course, also rapidly changing. News cycles have become non-stop, and we now have multiple media players.
Yes.
You may or may not like him, but a very good example is actually Donald Trump.
You don't say. Donald Trump playing the media for free advertising? That's something that people don't talk often enough about. The amount of free advertising, earned media, as they say, not paid for media, earned media. Donald Trump just has to do something, say something, go somewhere. And there is proverbial ink spilt on the basis of that without him having to raise a finger or raise any donations. So the more media you can generate by not actually paying for it is always an advantage in one way, shape, or form. And Donald Trump is very good at that. And you know who's facilitating that more than anything else? The media themselves. It's why you don't hear much of anything about Joe Biden or what Joe Biden is doing or what Joe Biden is saying, because he's not doing anything. He's not saying much. He's not very interesting. Most of the media right now is just, well, he's not Donald Trump. But even then, you see Trump on the headlines and in the articles far, far, far more often than Biden. Now, is that going to eventually be an advantage for Trump in the election versus Biden, given the circumstances of the moment? I can't say. Trump could still lose this. He could still easily lose this, depending on how things hash out. So, anyway.
Who has brought reality television to politics and who illustrates that the key to be successful in this new environment is to be authentic?
No. Who brought reality television to politics? The media. The media has turned Trump into a reality show. And I said it before the election was over with. This was a long time ago. I don't recall if it was recorded, but I always said if Donald Trump becomes president, the White House will become a reality TV show. You know, not because Donald Trump is making it so, but because that is how the media is going to treat it. Every member of the family will be a character in the grand epic. You know, every move he makes will be a new story, etc. And I wasn't wrong. And it's one of the reasons I didn't vote for him. One of the many reasons. But anyway.
Voters have grown very cynical.
Yeah.
They're willing to forgive a lot. They're willing to forgive character flaws, gloss over policy disagreements, if they feel that they're being given the real deal.
Yeah, the real deal. I guess it depends on the candidate. I understood the real deal of Donald Trump when he was campaigning. I understood the real deal of Donald Trump back in the 80s and the 90s when I was a kid. And I understood that the real deal was not something I was willing to put my vote behind. But people see authenticity in someone who is, I don't know, not straight-laced, an outsider, and so on and so forth. They see something more genuine about someone who isn't polished and isn't, groomed to be in their position. And I can understand that to a certain extent. So many people, or it was said so many times during the George H.W. Bush campaign, the George W. Bush campaign, that he's the kind of guy you'd want to have a beer with. I heard that a lot. Well, I don't drink beer. And truth be told, people who hang out in bars and drink beer all the time, I don't know if I'd want them running the country necessarily. But that was always, it was someone you could relate to, right? Someone who felt comfortable or familiar. I don't know that Donald Trump possesses any of those attributes for me personally, but to each their own. Thank you, John Miller. Or the opponent is a much worse pick. That's the other thing too. Like I say, Hillary did herself no favors in her campaign. She had no message. She had no oomph. There wasn't anything exciting about her. And there was just this presumption of it's her turn. That's all I got from her campaign, as a complete layman outsider. It's her turn. And besides the fact that the it's her turn presumptiveness turned me off, besides the fact that her attitude turned me off, there's something else that turned me off from the get-go, even before she started campaigning. And that, in my mind, is a distaste of the notion of dynasty. I did not like the fact that a second Bush was in the White House when George W. Bush was elected. I don't like the idea that there are a very small number of families that will always be in power, leapfrogging one administration to the next kind of thing. I didn't like that. I didn't like it under Bush, and I certain as hell didn't like it as an idea for Clinton. So that was another thing that turned me off, the idea of dynasty. I don't want royal families in this country. And I know that by dint of wealth and a whole bunch of other things, we have royal families, and they don't necessarily have positions in politics. But insofar as I can help it as a voter, I don't want to put royal families into perpetual states of power in our politics. Again, if I can help it, which is why I'm not going to vote for any other Trump or Trump family member that might come down the pike in the future. Doesn't matter. Don't like it. Not a fan of it. I think it's part of the reason why we're a country in the first place, is trying to avoid that kind of thing. But what do I know?
Social media allows to directly communicate with your supporters and therefore is now part of almost any campaign. But its impact should also not be overestimated, because remember this: few people change their mind on social media.
This is true. As much weight as is given to social media, people usually have their minds made up very early on in the process, whether it's by party or just by personality. Which is why it never made any sense to me that people focus so much on those Facebook ads that were bought by Russian agents or something. Like $4,000 in Facebook ads, or even a set of fake Twitter accounts or something. That's really going to sway the American electorate. That's some grand conspiracy. It's a drop in the bucket to what we're generating of our own accord as citizens, or as media outlets as it is. This is Kyle. So you didn't vote for Trump because of how the media was going to react? No. I didn't vote for Trump because I didn't have any faith in him as a leader of a nation. I saw him as an egotistical blowhard who would say whatever he needed to say in the moment to get a reaction out of people. I didn't have any faith that he would be somebody I would want to have as president. And over the last 4 years, he's just continued to prove that. Now, the pragmatist in me says, well, besides my opinion of the guy, he was elected president. And I have to respect that, even if I wouldn't be the guy that would have voted for him in the first place. And so I take the line from John Wayne. I didn't vote for him, but he's my president, and I hope he does a good job. At the end of the day, I can only hope that the outcome of his time in office is a positive one. Even if I'm not that much of a fan of the man, his attitude, his bedside manner, his communication skills, his lack of statesmanship, and so on. That's beside the point. He's the president. So fingers crossed, we come out of all of this at least as good or better than we started. Because for all the rhetoric, for all of the, personality conflicts and so on, the end of the day is, are we safe? Are we secure? Are we better off overall as Americans, etc.? Now, the pandemic has thrown all of that into the wind, And as much as I wouldn't have voted for him, and I'm not going to vote for him again, I will say that economically speaking, we've been much better off as a country up until the pandemic during Trump's administration versus Obama's. Now, is that Trump's doing, or is that the leftover of Obama's policies? I'm not an economist. I can't make the argument one way or the other. But as we talked about on Monkey's show earlier today, the person in power generally takes both the credit and or the blame for whatever's going on in the country during their administration. So I can't begrudge how we were economically before the pandemic, but I still wasn't a fan of Trump as a president for this country, as a representative. So, but again, it doesn't matter what I think or what my opinion was at the time I did or did not vote for him, and I didn't. But yeah, that's just where I'm at, I guess. Thank you, Drew W. Trump is a moderate Republican from New York, aka Democrat. I mean, anyway, I got to get on with the show. I could go on for a long time on this, but appreciate it, Drew W. Thank you.
Now, let's talk about money, the third M.
Yes, money, something that is too much of a factor, I think. Our politicians, not just the president, but our politicians spend more time fundraising for their next campaign, more so, or at least as much as they are doing their jobs that we put them there for, which is unfortunate.
In this new context, if you have the right message, social media might actually help you raise tons of cash. Many people think that money is the most important factor. I say you can push the right message with less money.
Yes, as we saw with the Hillary Clinton campaign. The Hillary Clinton campaign had a war chest that was ginormous. Tons and tons and tons of money. And yet it was misspent or not spent, depending on the circumstances. Again, I really recommend you read the book Shattered about the Hillary Clinton campaign. Trump spent comparatively a small amount of money as related to Hillary. And if you want a non-presidential example, look at Beto O'Rourke. Beto O'Rourke had a war chest that was gigantic, but he still couldn't beat Ted Cruz. Money does not determine success when it comes to political campaigns. That I completely agree with. It sure doesn't hurt, though.
You may be not going to believe me, but I've actually had clients with too much money. Admittedly, not a problem that happens very often, but it still is a problem because it undermines discipline. There is a point where a campaign can afford so many ads and so many messages, you end up saying and being everything for everybody, and you end up winning nobody.
Or you have someone in charge of the spending who actually doesn't spend the money on places and on things that they should have to help bolster what you presume is your base in places that you already presume were going to be voting for you. As in the Hillary Clinton campaign. You've got this giant war chest and you're like, oh, we don't need to spend money there. And then those are the jurisdictions that you lost. Right? Again, taking voters for granted, never a good idea. You know, even those that you think you can rely upon, and maybe you can, always play it safe and at least give them some attention. Sounds cynical, sounds a little bit cold, but that's just reality.
Okay, you have a message, you have media, you have money, you're in pretty good shape. Now you need the fourth M, make no mistake.
Make no mistake. Okay, I'm curious to know where this is going to go because, you know, at the end of the day, we're all human. So what do you mean by make no mistake? And isn't that like a fifth M? Isn't that 5 M's technically? I know I'm being a smartass, but all the same.
Mistake. Try making no major mistake. Major mistakes include starting too late, not getting accurate research, but by far the most common major mistake is to produce campaign materials without content.
Okay, and we've only got like 3 minutes left in this thing. Have we heard anything that isn't effectively boilerplate thinking for any election, any campaign, whether it's today or 15 years ago? I mean, the presentation was meant to promise something about how to win elections in a changing world, etc. But aside from the very specifics of social media in the media section, has he said anything yet that is really new or quote unquote modern or revolutionary? Because I don't think so. I'll take arguments to the contrary after this is finished. But so if you have any ideas, hold on to them until after I'm done with the show. But he hasn't gotten anything that sounds innovative yet.
You have all just witnessed the Swiss election campaign.
No, I haven't. But do tell.
You have seen the many billboards of candidates with smiling faces and the slogan. Maybe some of you didn't understand the slogan. That's how I feel when I work in a country where I don't speak the local language.
Okay, well, I mean, I have no idea what goes on in Switzerland or anything else, so I'll take your word for it.
Make the test. If you look at the material and by simply looking at it, you sense it's propaganda, it's probably a waste of money.
If you sense it's propaganda, well, all political material, advertising, and so on is propaganda. It's there to try to influence you towards voting a particular way or believing a particular way of thinking. So I always sense the propaganda of anything coming out of any campaign, whether it's as simple as a sign that I see staked on the side of the road to a campaign ad that's meant to influence me one way or the other. But maybe I'm just more cynical than the average bear. I don't know.
A friend of mine who is an expat here asked me, is there a law in Switzerland that demands all campaign billboards to look the same? I said, no, there is no such law. That's really how our politicians are.
That reminds me of something. I did a video a while back, and the speaker brought up the idea that, no presidential candidate in the last, I don't know, whatever it was, 60, 70 years or something, no major political candidate who has won or has even run has had a beard. Like, is there a rule that says that a presidential candidate, I should say presidential, did I say political candidate? I meant presidential candidate. The pepperjack might be getting to me. Either way, presidential candidate has not had a beard. While on the campaign trail, while running for president, none of them have had a beard. Is there a law that says they can't have a beard? Is there a rule that says that having a beard will mean you won't get elected? I don't think so. The running theory is that someone with a beard could not be elected. Why that is thought of, I don't know. But I've had it argued to me that someone can't win without having a clean-shaven face. And I'm like, well, how do you know that? Because if you're telling me the truth, we haven't had the option of voting for someone with a beard in so long. How do you know no one with a beard could succeed in becoming president? It's one of those things. That's what this little billboard thing reminded me of anyway.
Why? Because it takes a lot of courage to do things differently from all the others. Yeah.
And doing things differently from all the others can be interpreted as having courage, can be interpreted as being a maverick, can be interpreted as being something new or revolutionary or rebellious, just because it's different, which is a pitfall if you don't actually look at the content of what is being said. Different doesn't necessarily mean good. It just means different. Some voters, I don't know, maybe think that because they're not familiar with something or something seems different, they're going to get a different outcome. And you can make the arguments like, well, I voted for Trump and the economy went gangbusters as compared to Obama. Maybe. Correlation without causation? Maybe. I don't know. But anyway.
So what I've been presenting here today is a very general approach and solution, which I'm sure will work everywhere where there are competitive campaigns.
No, you didn't offer a solution. You summarized the basic founding, basic founding? Whew. The basic building blocks is what I meant to say of any campaign throughout history. I mean, taking away the whole social media, internet aspect of it, just media in general. What do you say? Message, money, media, and make no mistakes. None of those are a solution. Those are just the most boilerplate strategy notes for any political campaign. I mean, it's not an irrelevant summary. It's not something that isn't worth discussing and at least being aware of, certainly. But it's not a solution. It's not an answer to how to win campaigns in a changing world. It's just how campaigns are run. Unless I just missed something.
Of course, the historic background, political culture, the institutions are all important factors shaping campaigns.
Yeah.
In other words, my model can be and has to be applied to the local setting. Maybe the content of the message will be different. The media we use to push it will be different. I'm sure you'll find new and different mistakes.
Yeah, like everything that you've said is just a one-size-fits-all high-level consideration for a political campaign. And it would be the same 50 years ago. It wouldn't be any different. How does this have anything to do with the modern day or a changing world? What considerations do you have to make now that you didn't have to make 20 years ago? Aside from the news cycle being far more fast-paced. I mean, sure, but if you're going to account for that, you have to focus in on that, and you didn't. Like, if you start out your talk saying, this is how political campaigns dealt with the news cycle 50 years ago. Okay. This is how the news cycle is now. This is how campaigns need to adapt. I'd be like, okay, I learned something new. But that's not what you've said.
But it still takes the 4 M's to win high-profile campaigns. Message, media, money, and make no mistakes.
And that is as true today as it was 100 years ago. And
I told you at the beginning that I really like campaigns. I love it because it has speed and drive, but also because I do think it is a way to change things for the better.
Well, that's what you would hope most, politicians are trying to do. If we have any faith in our public servants and those people trying to get our vote and represent us in the government or elsewise, is that they want at their core to make life better in one way, shape, or form for their constituents. And if they don't get reelected. So let's see. Sar Jim says, Scribe Light, he's a consultant. It's not his job to come up with new ideas. Possibly. Or probably. Also, I haven't seen chat move in the last minute or 3, so I don't know if I've been cut off from YouTube. So if you could put a message in the chat to let me know chat's still moving, because that's my only indicator that the YouTube stream is still up, I'd appreciate it. Stupid Clown posted a message, so I appreciate it. Damn it, I missed most of it. What is this idiot talking about? Well, he's talking about politics and campaigns. And thank you all for verifying that the stream is still live. I got a moment of paranoia there, so I appreciate it. All right, only a few seconds left on this one, and then we'll wrap up.
And you know what?
Know what?
This new environment opens up a lot of opportunities for campaigners.
What new environment? What environment? What are you talking about? Like the internet, social media? What? What is the new environment? You haven't said anything new in this entire talk.
Think about it.
I've been thinking about it for 9 minutes and 27 seconds of your talk. I haven't heard anything that's all that innovative or new. What are you talking about?
If public opinion is getting ever more volatile, this means that it has never been more worthwhile to campaign.
You didn't quantify what more volatile is. I said that at the beginning. You just said it, oh, we're so polarized and the electorate is more volatile. More volatile than what? What does more volatile mean? You can't have me wonder about how things might operate in this environment, quote unquote, if you don't explain what you mean by this environment.
So my formula is your formula.
You didn't give us a formula. You gave us the basic tenets of running a campaign. It's not your formula. It's nothing new. Did I miss something?
Use it to better understand what spin doctors are doing, but also get excited.
What?
Get involved and apply it for parties, candidates, and issues who deserve to win. Thank you very much.
Spin doctors? You didn't even talk about spin doctors. You talked about, at the beginning of this, you said, learning how to influence people to vote the way you want them to, or something to that extent. You never went into that. You just talked about what are the necessary steps or necessary components of running and managing a political campaign. The same components that have been true now as they were 100 years ago. I mean, the media has changed, yes, right? The news cycle has changed, but message, money, media, and make no mistakes, taken by themselves, are, I hate to tell you this, timeless. The promise of this presentation was how to win elections in a changing world. And nothing you presented addressed the changing world except the offhanded mention of social media. Your formula, huh? Okay. Thank you, Stupid Clown. Looking forward to going back and watching. I appreciate it. This wasn't your usual TEDx talk. It was relatively bland, I suppose, as far as controversial subjects, but more so, it was frustrating in promises not kept. The title and the expectations of the introduction not being fulfilled. And this is a guy who spent 20 years, if I'm remembering correctly, studying political science and campaigns and so on. So if ever there was an expert on political campaigns, well, this would be one of them. And what did he tell us? The same kind of stuff you'd hear at a political science 101 class in college. And nothing more. So the way to run a successful campaign today is no different than running one 50 years ago. And even with everything he mentioned, I mean, he even undercut his own argument. Money. Well, if money is actually irrelevant to the likelihood of success, i.e. Hillary Clinton and her war chest, Beto O'Rourke and his war chest, if money is effectively irrelevant, why put it in there as one of your quote-unquote 4 M's? Because as far as I could tell, you just told us that money did not determine success. So why is it there? What has Beto O'Rourke and Hillary Clinton proven to us, if not that having a lot of money does not guarantee a successful political campaign? Shouldn't that be the lesson? Like in the olden days, money was this important to a campaign. These days, it's not. But he didn't say that. Sort of. I don't know. Thank you, Lamented Guide. A lot of people saying a whole lot of nothing in TEDx. I've seen good TEDx talks before. I've seen interesting and informative TEDx talks before. And honestly, going into this one blind, I thought it'd be one of those. You know, not necessarily some grand revelation, but something more interesting, something, some idea or perspective I hadn't thought of before. Like I said, the title didn't have any buzzwords that, you know, trip my tripwires or nothing, but I was curious. I was like, okay, well, what is an analysis of modern political process and elections from a different perspective? But did we get a different perspective? Or was it just a rehash of common sense packaged as though it was some revelation? Now, as I said earlier, if the point of this talk was to speak to those who are not more politically, I don't know, inclined or interested or savvy, if you're doing effectively a 101 political science class in 10 minutes on a TEDx stage, I guess I can understand that, but that's not how he packaged this. Speaking of packaging, he packaged this as his formula, how to look at campaigns today. And there wasn't anything modern there. There wasn't anything innovative. So I kind of call this a wash. The bingo card is effectively irrelevant for this because free space and a list. That's it. There's not even anything else to consider. I'll go over the squares just to verify. Plays victim? No, he wasn't talking a victim narrative. Takes credit for something? No. White supremacy? No. Childhood or family anecdote? I don't think he ever talked about it. And I'm not going to count like him going to college as a childhood or family anecdote. That doesn't make any sense. Microaggression? No. Wage gap? No. Patriarchy? No. Coin new buzzword, buzz phrase? I don't think so. Word salad? No, I understood him. I didn't feel like I was going off into la-la land with anything he was saying. Systemic, institutional, no. Toxic, no. Anecdote that probably never happened. He never brought up any anecdotes. Leaves out vital context. He didn't provide any statistics or anything that I can think of that, I mean, I'm willing to take arguments elsewise. Speaker should not be in current occupation or position. I mean, as your baseline political consultant, nothing he said was wrong per se. So if he's a political consultant, yeah, he's fine, I guess. Marginalization, no. School to prison pipeline, no. Make something about race, sex, etc. No, he never brought that. Rape culture, no. Feminism, no. Benevolent condescension, no. Even if I think he's being maybe somewhat condescending to his audience. Equity, no. Cultural appropriation, no. Gratuitous pausing for effect, no. So, yeah. I don't even know if it's worth showing my bingo card, guys. Free space and a list. Even if somehow you have the wrong bingo card, as from the last presentation, yeah, 2 squares don't make anything near a bingo. So, but yeah. All right. Well, I'll take the next couple minutes to look at your guys' questions or comments or observations, and then we'll wrap this up. Dark Alal, I wonder how many campaigns he actually helped win. Well, he mentioned something like 2,000 campaigns. And I don't know if anyone has enough lifetime in them to run 2,000 campaigns. I don't know if he was saying he ran 2,000 campaigns or he analyzed 2,000 campaigns. I'm betting it's the latter and not the former. But either way, I don't know. He never said. Let's see. Stupid clown. I can't believe this guy avoided word salad. I mean, as far as there was no point at which I was like bewildered as to what he was saying or how he was saying it. I was more bewildered as to its relevance to the title of the presentation, or again, how anything he was saying was either new or tailor-made for the modern day versus any day in the past. Brutus, Scroblight, off topic, but the Obama remark reminded me of my old history teacher saying, quote, Obama is the best president because he got a Nobel Peace Prize, unquote. And then I said, quote, so did Adolf, what's your point, unquote. Yeah, Obama got a Nobel Peace Prize before he did anything. That was the most virtue signaling, reactive, empty Nobel Peace Prize ever awarded. You know, even at that point where it happened, before he'd actually done anything to be criticized over insofar as peace is concerned, that never made any sense to me. Now, wait until he's done with his administration before you say that. Before you award that. That never made any sense. You know, and I'd say that about any president who's awarded a Nobel Peace Prize before they've actually truly begun their administration. You're really endorsing somebody you have no proof for. Jim Scribelight, he never mentioned he's worked for Democrats his whole career, kind of vital context. Well, I mean, he's coming from Switzerland, I'm assuming, and he referenced American politics, but I don't know what the parties are or how they operate in Switzerland. So if his primary experience or knowledge comes from a country that's not here, not having been involved with Democrats doesn't mean he's being disingenuous or something, or leaving out context. So, you know, if he's just talking referentially or academically about American politics, okay, I don't fault him for that necessarily. Cannibalistic Wizard, I thought Hillary's slogan was Pokemon go to the polls. Yeah, well, that was a campaign strategy at one point. That wasn't her slogan. Faithless, the Drone King won the Peace Prize. Yeah. If only they'd waited like maybe 4 or 5 years before thinking about awarding the Peace Prize to him. Let's see. John Miller, did Obama actually accept the prize? Yeah. Now he was there. He accepted it. It's true. I remember the video. Let's see. Parody Bear, he's a derple peephole creeper. Ooh, the speaker? I didn't get anything creepy off of him, but, you know, to each of their own. Let's see. Brutus, Obama by concurrent Democratic standards would be alt-right. Well, he probably wouldn't be left enough or liberal enough for the most extreme these days. That's probably true. Sorry, Jim. Scribelight, all his U.S. campaigns in the U.S. were for Dems. Oh, you looked this guy up? Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood. He never mentioned he's worked for Democrats his whole career, kind of vital context. But did he bring up anything partisan in the process? I mean, he mentioned Donald Trump. He mentioned Obama. I didn't hear anything that was overtly partisan in his presentation. I'm open to the argument, but, you know, give me how any of that pertained directly to his presentation. How his leaving out what party he worked for in America puts the lie to anything he said, I guess would be my question. I'm open to arguments. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, because like I didn't look up this guy prior, as I do for, well, most TEDx's, if not all of them. Let's see. Renovescio, Obama basically won the Nobel Peace Prize for being black. We should have known the focus of the next 8 years wasn't going to be on character or meritocracy. You know, the Nobel Committee's decision to do that is their own responsibility to take. It's got nothing to do with Obama. I don't think he should have accepted it. I think he should have declined the honor and said something to the effect of, I hope the committee will judge me on the results of my administration and not on the advent of my election. I had hoped something like that would. When I first heard about it, I had hoped, because I voted for Obama, I had hoped he'd say something like that, but he didn't. That did not help my opinion of him going forward, but either way. Let's see. Vero Vashmanai shows that these points are revelations for him since he clearly didn't know them when working for the Dems. I'm surprised he did not bring up Hillary Clinton. He brought up Obama. He brought up Trump. And those were winning campaigns. Why didn't he bring up one of the failures, one of the most dramatic failures? If he wants to talk about how money does not necessarily guarantee a win, why didn't he bring up Hillary? It's the most recent and most dramatic example of that. So, yeah. Let's see. Sorry, Jim. Oh, he's talking to somebody else. Zach Lives Matter. Breaking. Doctors now warning that air conditioners spread coronavirus. Oh, sure. You know, air circulation systems that aren't clean can spread all types of diseases. So no surprise there. Let's see, John Miller. Clinton may have been a black mark on his career, but I don't know which campaign he helped with. I don't know either. I don't know what campaigns he worked with. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I don't know if I have anything else to say about this that I haven't already said. I was hoping for something, you know, informational, educational, and as a very, 101 level class on sort of the core of how politics work or campaigns work. Sure. But the title promised me something else, and it didn't deliver. And I could fault him for not providing more about his own experience and how that informed what he was going to tell us. So in that sense, okay, even if he didn't specifically talk about political parties or his leanings, leaves out vital context. All right, I'll give that to you. I'll circle that one. So free space, leaves out vital context, and a list. But as far as, the other TEDx's we've done in the past go, fairly light on the bingo card. As far as a TEDx that doesn't actually inform me of anything, this one's right in line. It's not bereft of information, but it certainly does not fulfill its promise. So take that for what you will. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining me today in this little experimental journey into something that wasn't immediately buzzword heavy in the title, but was a subject that I was interested in hearing something about. If you'd like to hear more from me or Satsu 2 Cents or Ranting Monkey, you can listen to us tonight on Satsu 2 Cents' channel at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for the Lords of the Night stream, where we'll go over the news of the day, stories that you submit, what we've seen in the world of the internet in the last 24 hours or thereabouts, and then your questions and comments. And then, that's the format. You can always anticipate that's how it's going to be. And that's mostly my fault, if you want to blame me. But everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Please stay safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.